Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Things That Don't Tell You podcast. I have again with me my favorite guest, Ricky Watson Jr. And today we are going to do something a little different than what I would usually do when it comes to interviewing people. I want strictly Ricky's opinion today about a lot of stuff, but under the same umbrella. And the title of this episode is called the Debunking Edition. And we're going to talk about we still talk about the church, but we're going to talk about things in the church and if they should continue or not, scripturally and our own opinion, or Ricky's own opinion. This is Ricky's opinion.
He's trying to set me up, y'all. He's trying to set me up.
So we're going to play a game.
Okay.
Called Keep It or Can It.
Got it.
Now, the concept of this game is I'm going to tell you either title of something that happens in the church or a thing like that takes place in the church that probably is not innately in the DNA of the church, but we've implemented if we should keep it or can it.
Got it.
Not if it works for us, but if we should keep it or can it.
Got it.
Okay.
Oh gosh. I'm sure I'm gonna get in trouble now.
Probably not. It depends. People. Yeah. The first topic is spiritual parenting. Keep it or can it?
Oh my God. Dang, there's no sliding scale to this.
Keep it or can it. You can explain your answer, but you have to say the answer first.
Fine, we can keep it.
Okay, why do you want to keep it?
Because I do think it has its benefits. I just think it is so overly emphasized.
Mm-hmm.
And the scriptures only has 3 references to it out of 31,000 verses.
Mm-hmm.
It's 3 to 5 references to it. So I think we overemphasize it. So that makes me want to get rid of it. But because of the benefits, I'll say keep it.
Okay. The next one is streaming service. Streaming the service on the Sunday morning or whenever Bible study or whatever. Should we keep it or can it?
Keep it.
Keep it. Okay.
Yes.
Biblical literacy. Should we keep it or can it? And when I say biblical literacy, I mean actually knowing what you're talking about as it pertains to the Bible and what it means and stuff. Is it important, or can we just come to church and hear a word and go home, not have to get really understanding about it? Should we just keep it or can it? If it's even there, but
I was gonna say, I don't know if it's there to keep or can, but if we're gonna make it a thing, I definitely keep it.
Okay.
I feel like we've already canned it, but we should keep it.
Okay. Dating in the church, keep it or can it?
Can it?
Ooh, okay, I want to ask why on that one.
That was trauma.
Why do you want to can it?
Because I don't think
spouse in the church.
Yes, and I don't. No, I think your spouse should be a Christian, which is a separate conversation. But I do think people in the church, unfortunately, from my experience, this is my opinion, right? Yeah, I'm not teaching the Bible.
Absolutely.
My opinion is, I feel like people in the church, especially single people, it's easy for us to develop unrealistic expectations of what we want in relationships and in dating. And on top of unrealistic expectations, we put on this Christian pretense of what we think a Christian relationship should look like. So all of that pressure and all of that falsehood is just too much. Are you born again? That's what I'm gonna start asking people. Not, are you in the church?
Okay. Prophecy, keep it or can
it? Ooh, I will put this in the same bucket with spiritual parenting, but I'll keep it. I'll keep it.
Skinny jeans, keep it or can it?
Keep it.
Okay. Why do you want to keep it?
Because I think for some people they work really well.
Okay. You want to answer that again? You want to answer that again? You want to answer that one more time?
No, I want to keep that answer.
Okay. Women preachers, keep it or can it?
Definitely keep.
Why do you want to keep women preachers? Is there a scripture in the Bible that talks about women shouldn't be preaching?
Yes and no, but I do want to keep it because I feel like God has always significantly used women from Genesis to Revelation. You're going to see a woman, and you're going to see God's use of a woman in literally every single book of the Bible.
Absolutely.
So say we keep it.
For sure. For sure. Single pastors, keep it or can it?
Keep it.
Why?
Because I don't know if that them being their marital status is a requirement to be in ministry.
There are some people who would say that you are wrong.
There are a lot of people that will say I was wrong, but those people have been wrong before. So
okay, now we're going to get into the good questions. Those are good though, because that
yes, praise yourself.
Those are definitely good. What's a misconception that people have about preachers that you want to debunk?
Oh, that's actually a really good question. A misconception.
Preachers in this time, because I don't want to talk about the preachers of old this time.
Gotcha. I think often a misconception is that preachers today either don't know how to have fun, or they have fun to the point that they secretly live in sin. It's like there's no middle ground. It's either they're just all about God, or they in sin behind closed doors, as if those are the only two options for preachers. So I would say that.
That was good. That was pretty good. Do you feel like preachers should start watching what they say since service is being streamed now?
Absolutely. I think they should have always been mindful and careful about what they say, for a multiplicity of reasons. Number one, as a preacher, you are standing in a pulpit as a representative of God. So what you say should be a representation of Christ. So I think that should come with some type of reverence, carefulness, tact, diplomacy. All of these things I think should have been involved. And I think now that streaming has been added to the pot, we definitely should, because you can't get away with just saying something in a service and now it's hearsay. We can actually roll the tape back and actually hear it. So I think we should be mindful of that.
So how do you feel about preachers who are heavily opinionated as it pertains to like social issues, even the Bible, and they seem to kind of veer off and it becomes a them thing? Like, do you feel like our opinion should be in the pulpit? Because Juanita Bynum said, I don't have an opinion because I have a Bible. That's what she said.
That's what she said. And I actually agree with that to an extent. I think people are humans and humans have opinions. So you can't take that away from people. However, when you're standing in a pulpit, you're not there to share your opinion. You should be there to share the word of God, to speak for God. And so I think your opinion has a platform. It's just not the pulpit.
So what would you call a preacher who does that? Immature,
untrained, untaught, could be hurt, could be some pain. There could be a lot of things.
Interesting. Do you feel like streaming has hurt the church more than it has helped? Because I believe it was implemented to help, people who are at home and give them a way to connect and still feel connected to the church. Do you feel like it's helped more or do you feel like it's hurt more?
And when you say the church, yes, this is my podcast, guys. I'm going to interview him. When you say the church, you're literally talking about the institution of the church, not like literally the church that Jesus is the head of.
I'm talking about everything that you just said. Do you feel like it's helped? Because in either way, streaming has affected.
It has, but for the church that Jesus is literally the head of, I think it's benefited. For the institutional church, I don't think it's been great at all, because it's caused a lot of confusion. It has caused a lot of drama. It has exposed people who were never called to ministry to begin with. It has just caused a lot to the institution of the church, which in the institution, I'm a believer that we got Christians and non-Christians a part of the institutionalized church. But those that are actually born again and are part of the Church of Jesus Christ, I think it's been greatly beneficial.
So explain when you say, give people a basic definition of institutional church and born again.
Got it. To keep it real simple, when I say institutional church, this is any church, any organization that is recognized by the government.
Mhm.
I mean, child molester could start a church tomorrow and get a 501c3 and be an institution
Right.
recognized by the government. However, Jesus's church that I'm talking about is the one that he said that he built, the one that the gates of hell would not prevail against, the one that would always succeed, always conquer, always overcome. And those are ones that have genuinely given their life to Christ and been born again.
I thought that was good.
Okay.
I would understand that.
Okay, good.
What would you tell a person who feels like the church/church people are judgmental? What would you give them? What tools would you give them to A, overcome it, B, ignore it, or, what would you tell them? If I said, Ricky, I don't want to come to church because the church is judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
I'm unsaved and I want to be saved, but this is a barrier for me.
I would have a nice hard answer. I would say, first of all, I totally get that, totally understand it. I hear you. And it's true. There are tons of churches that have plenty of judgmental people. Some are doing it maliciously. Some are doing it just because they think that's caring and showing the love of God, is just how they've been taught. But my issue with that is the church is not the only place that has judgmental people. It's the only place that we feel like we have an option to choose to be a part of or not be a part of because of the lack of value you put on it.
Mm-hmm.
If I have judgmental people at my job, I'm still going to go because I value that check.
Right.
If I have judgmental people at church, I may not go because I can get to God without going to church, right? Is the mindset we have.
Mm-hmm.
However, I would focus in on letting them see the value of being around a community of believers, even if there are some in the mix that are judgmental, are hypocritical, and maybe they are that way because nobody's ever been like you to show up and actually say, hey, I feel judged by that.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I don't feel the love of God in this. Some people are just doing it just because that's all they know to do. And to excuse yourself is not to help the problem. You're actually now aiding the problem in the church. So you are helping the judgmental and the hypocrites in the church by not showing up. So that would be my little 2 cents.
That's pretty good. So for a rebuttal could possibly be, do I have to ignore it? And do I have to act as if it's not happening, or do I stand up and say something?
No, I don't think you ignore it. I think you can say something. I mean, you have a right to, because again, the community of faith that you decide to be a part of should be safe for you. Because if you're not safe, then you're not going to grow, and growth should be the aim. And if you speak up and you get retaliation or blackballed, so to speak, because we know that unfortunately happens in the church, then you pack your little bags up and you go find another church. Yeah. Like, there is a church for you. And I think that is the thing that people kind of get sucked into, that after they have a couple of bad experiences in church, then it becomes the church is just full of hypocrites, full of judgmental people, as if they have been to every church that they could go to. So it's just, hey, that church has more judgmental people than loving people. Not for me. Let me keep searching. Let me keep looking. Just like, again, I do at a job. Hey, this job was good. It ain't working for me. I got to keep looking. Got to keep searching. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Next question. Is there a dress code, or should there be a dress code for the church? Because Juanita Bynum said we should not be able to see what God gave you as it pertains to tight clothes, women not wearing stockings or girdles, or men wearing tight suits. She just talked about that at what's it called, church a couple days ago.
That's funny. I'm actually gonna talk about her on my show on Monday, so this is funny.
So it's like, is there a dress code? Should there be a dress code? Should people be condemned for not presenting themselves in a certain way in the sanctuary? Because this is what we're talking about, the sanctuary. That's
Very true.
So it's like, yeah.
Yes, I wouldn't go so far as to say there should be a dress code. However, I think you should dress in a respectful manner.
Mm-hmm.
If you were going out to uh birthday party,
Mm-hmm.
y'all was getting ready to turn up for the weekend, how you would dress there would be different if you went to dinner with your parents. Like that would look, you would dress
Mm-hmm.
differently. Hopefully so. This world, I don't know, but hopefully so. But and it's not that you can't be you when you're with your parents, and you can't dress like you when you're with your parents, but you are respectful of your parents, so you adjust your attire. And I think it's the same way when you come to church. Be you, dress like you. If you want to color your hair, color your hair. You want to pierce your ears, nose, do whatever, get tattooed, whatever. However, do what you think is respectful to be in the house of God. Like I would not wear um a shirt and then have it unbuttoned all the way down here. Now you catch me on vacation, you may get a different attire, but I wouldn't do that in church out of respect for the holiness of God
Mm-hmm.
and the sacredness of His sanctuary. So, but again, for me, all of this, and then I'm done. All of this is a full circle, and it all like interconnected. Because again, if we're going to talk about churches not being good and being judgmental and being hypocritical, if I'm going to treat the house of God like it's not holy or sacred, then why do I expect holiness to take place in the house of God?
Mm-hmm.
So if I can dress any kind of way I want to, wear anything I want, reveal any part of my body that I want to reveal, then why am I expecting other people to quote unquote live holy or be holy or treat me in a holy manner when I'm not treating it as a holy manner? So yeah, I just think it should be respectful. I wouldn't go as far as to say this is a list of do's and don'ts, but because everybody's boundary for that is different.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you can look in the mirror and be like, yeah, I would go to heaven and stand before God like this.
Mm-hmm.
That is the question people should ask.
So what do you say to the person who does that and still what they are have on is still to the really saved person who believes the outer should be a certain way? What do you say to that person who's like, this is fine for me. I still can go to church with my fishnet top and leather pants and I'm fine. Do we judge them? Or do we sit them down? Do we tell them they can't do certain things? Can they not be in front of people?
I think it depends on several things. Number one, if we're talking about a unsaved, unchurched person that's just like, I feel comfortable with this and I'm fine, I think that's fine. Because the Bible doesn't give us standards and parameters for the unsaved and the unchurched. And
that is so good.
So I think we need to stop applying our principles for our life and our levels of maturity to people who are just coming into the fold or people who are not a part of the fold at all at the moment. Maybe they're there to figure out if they even want God in this season. If maybe they're there to figure out, okay, I'm at the end of my rope. I'm here because, God is my last thing. And I don't need to say, well, let me pull out these rules that I have for my life. That's your life and your walk with God. So I think we should be mindful of that. Now, if we're talking about somebody that's been walking with God for 20 years and you come in with a revealing top and fish and all that, I think that's a different conversation. I think again, it should be a conversation, not an immediate action taken to
Juanita would say they haven't been purged out in God.
Well, I'm not God, so I can't say that. But I can
like
use it to.
Appropriate.
I don't think so. I don't think statements like that are appropriate because it's too much of a blanket statement that covers too many different types of people that you do not know. And yeah, I don't think it's tactful. And I think preachers should learn tact.
That's a good topic. So when it comes to tact, I think people think it's subjective. Like they think it's a thing of like, I can make this bend to how my personality is and I can dial it back a little bit and that could be considered tact.
Now tact, I think, can be subjective, but it's subjective based on culture, not individuality. Okay.
So and I don't want to seem like I'm like picking on preachers because I'm not.
Mhm.
But
You are.
as a member of a church, and as a member that has been a member of church since I was a child,
So yesterday, got it.
I've seen a lot of preachers do things because they were preachers because they had this authority seemingly.
Mm-hmm.
So they do,
or at least influence for sure.
Oh, yeah, so they do and say things that they deem or they believe we're supposed to accept and not say anything. Or if we do, it's the new buzzword dishonor.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's you're like in sin or you're in rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when people like have conversations like, well, I didn't really think that was okay or appropriate, da da da. Should that be deemed dishonor, or can the person have a voice? Can the members of a church have a voice?
No, you need to come sit your tail
That
down
is
and
so
listen. I'm just kidding. No, absolutely. And I think if you find yourself in those situations, you need to have. I've done it personally, but have conversations where you find out from the leader or the pastor, like, what does disagreement look like to you that does not include dishonor? And if there is no room for disagreement, then that you also just communicated to me you don't understand honor or dishonor. Because if you include disagreement with dishonor, we're never going to agree on how to have a dynamic. Yeah. Okay. But we do need, I think, yeah, people need to have a voice, and not just a voice of an opinion. Now, that is also a pet peeve of mine. Like, and we're, especially because we're dealing with, if we're dealing with the scriptures, this is not a battle of opinion.
Right.
So we should be, well, you're not disagreeing just for the sake of disagreeing. You're disagreeing because you're saying, hey, I heard you preach this, say this, but I don't know if I understand it. I don't know if I feel like the scriptures agree with what you said. Like, those are reasonable disagreements, not just, I know what he said, and I know he said it's in the Bible. He read it to us and everything. I just don't like it, so I disagree. And I think that's immature. But yeah.
Okay. So I had another question as it pertains to spiritual parenting. So you know that is like an epidemic in the church right now. I feel like it's always been a thing. I didn't personally start hearing about spiritual parenting until I was about 13, 14, when someone wanted to be my spiritual parent. And I really know what it was. I knew godparent, my parents, but other than that, didn't really hear about spiritual parenting until I was like 13. So, and then after that, didn't hear about it again until I came to my current church.
Got it.
So from what I've seen over the last couple of years, it's been a thing that has been kind of, what's a good word that don't sound crazy? Lusted after.
Oh, that's the word you want to use.
Yes. It's been something that I feel personally it's been lusted after. Like, I have people in my life that before like the current season, oh my God, I need a spiritual parent. I feel lost.
It's very true.
I feel, whatever. And I would sit back and look like, would a spiritual parent do more for you as it pertains to like guidance and stuff than God? Like, that's just where my brain goes. Before I got a little more understanding of the position of what a spiritual parent is, my brain would automatically go to, do you want a spiritual parent, or do you want like someone to vent to, just talk to, hold your hand, or pacify? It made my brain go to like immaturity.
Got it.
I always associated it with immaturity. It's like I would think you have God, you got the Bible. Why do you need? That's what my brain would go to. But now I understand it. But what do you feel like you would change as it pertains to the definition of spiritual parenting, as it pertains to how it's acted out, as it pertains to what is wrong with it, and what is right with it? Because I'm now starting to see the good in it. But at first, and you can ask Dr. Z, I fought it for a long time because I thought it was weird. Like, I really thought/think it was weird.
Understood.
So, yeah.
That is a very loaded question. A lot to sort through. However, I would say this. I think the reason why people are in search and want and longing and lust, as you say, after this spiritual parenting thing is I think the church has spent decades not discipling people. And I hear your thing of like, hey, don't you have God? But I do think people need more than just God to walk with. I mean, we see it in the scriptures. People walk with people. And I feel like if we had more discipleship going on in the Christian community, we wouldn't have this lust for spiritual parenting. Because I think people aren't really looking for parents, spiritual parents. They're looking for disciplers. And so that's that. My thought about spiritual parenting is why I was saying, it's just rolling my eyes early about it. Is because I think very few people need them.
You said it one more time.
I think very few people need spiritual parents. My current thought and theology and idea about it is I think spiritual parents and spiritual sons, you only need a son or a daughter that's going, the purpose of it is to extend whatever your calling, commission, mantle is in the earth. We see it with Elijah, Elisha. We see it with Paul and Timothy. We see it in a little bit in Jesus and the disciples, but what you see is an extension of their ministry. And so if you are not called to be an extension of what God has called them to, then they're not your parent. They're your discipler, but they're not your parent, because part of the father-son thing was that the son was a carrier of the father's seed. It was a continuation of that. And I think it is no different when it comes to spiritual things, that a spiritual son is a continuation of the seed God gave the father. Because of that, and because those are my beliefs around it, I think very few people need them. And I don't. Yeah, I'll leave it there. No. I was trying to see if I really believe what I was about to say. I don't know if I do, so I'm gonna leave it alone.
Okay, but tell me after.
But yeah. I think it's necessary. However, I think what people more so need and are looking for is discipleship.
Okay, so with that, because I've had conversations with people before, and they would always ask me, they would say, you feel like this, but you have a spiritual father. And I would always tell them, well, that specifically was not something that I looked for, I desired, or something that I wanted.
It
was something that introduced itself to me and presented itself to me, which is why I knew it was God. Because I literally, when I first came to the church, after hearing like the history kind of that from my friend, I said, God, I don't want that. And literally that day is the day I met Dr. Z. So it's like it was introduced to me organically. So I would tell people now, like when they would ask, what do you think about spiritual parenting, like having a spiritual father? Or I need one. I would always tell them like it's something I feel like God has to do.
I agree.
I feel like he even has to put like a pure desire in your heart for it. Because if it's something that you just want for the look and the aesthetic, or because you having problems with like your natural parents, and I had to make sure before I told Dr. Z, like, yes, I had to make sure my heart towards my actual, like my natural father was like good, and I wasn't trying to replace him, because that could be a thing. I have said.
It really can. That's healthy. It really can. I definitely didn't desire it. I didn't ask God for it. I didn't tell God I needed it. It was given to me. But when people go into that, I need, in my brain, I go, oh, so you don't need a spiritual. You need to be discipled. You need somebody to help walk you through this Christian walk. But that's not a parent. You don't need a spiritual parent for that.
So we have come to the end of the podcast.
That was good.
Do you have any questions for me? Make them easy, please.
Okay. Yes. What made you want to start this podcast?
You've asked me that before.
Okay.
I'll answer it again.
Oh, good. I'm gonna see if that answer is the same.
Well, I actually thought about it I had to make sure I wasn't lying.
When I first, and you questioned me for asking
again. Because you did. I have to make sure I wasn't lying, but the answer is still the same. I want to bring a light to people who I feel like are very gifted in a certain area of life and get them to tell me the things that people really don't know or the things that people really don't talk about. It's not the most popular thing to say when they ask, oh, what do you do? What are your gifts? Blah, 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 blah. I want the deep stuff, the juicy things.
Got it.
I want to see how people think as well.
Okay, that's pretty similar to your last answer.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, they present very smart, but when you start talking to them,
oh wow!
So we have to investigate that first of all. we have to
investigate that. Yes, let's wrap this up. Amen. Amen.
We have to make sure it was true. Yes. Any more questions?
What are your hopes for this podcast? Like, if it does this, you would feel like, wow, this is what I wanted this podcast to do.
If it answers people's questions that no one will answer, especially as it pertains to the church, there's a lot of questions that people just won't answer. And I know people who are willing to talk, such as yourself, who will give insight. And hopefully, especially with this video, because I know a lot of people who've asked those specific questions.
Oh, wow.
If it answers those questions, give people a little bit of peace, I'll be happy.
Fair enough. You're doing good, young man.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I pray you made it to the end of this video. I know Ricky talks a lot. I pray you understood everything that he said.
I ain't even gonna say how many times we had to record this.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Goodbye. Press this button, please. Press the button.